All right. How could I have been so blind? The most unassuming folk can prove to be our greatest allies. That fellow was but a passing merchant, yet he lent us aid without a moment's hesitation, or any hint of concern for his own safety. Though I can well imagine how a man could feel inspired to risk all in your presence. Father spoke often of you, Lavenza, and long have I looked forward to our first meeting. Needless to say, this is not at all how I envisioned it. See, Pippin I'd like as a trust companion or whatever. I mean, with us back in Eorzea now, maybe. That would be pretty awesome. Master Alphino, you must not give in to despair. That would only play into our enemy's hands. So long as you and Lavenza are free, we may still set things right. Forgive me, Master Terrapin, but I... Or Marshal Terrapin, but I... Alphino, my boy, sorry to keep you waiting. Yeah, Sid. To save the day. Sid, what are you doing here? Pulling you out of the fire as usual. Your merchant friend told me everything. Truly? Then he is no merchant, but an angel in peddler's clothing. But tell us, how do you intend to bear our friends to safety? Well, the Enterprise, of course. I hid the Enterprise but a short distance away. All I need is a destination. We must find a place beyond the reach of both the Monitorists and the Crystal Braves. Kurthis. Ishgard will not suffer the intrusion of foreign forces in their territory. That settles it. With me, everyone. Not I fear. I must remain here. I dare not abandon Ulda to the Monitorists and their cronies. You may be certain that they will seek to defame you, but both here and in the other city-states. But know that I shall do my utmost to thwart their every effort. Frankly, I do not expect it to be much of a challenge. The small folk will not turn so easily on the Warrior of Light and her allies, no matter what the Monitors claim. Marshal Terrapin, I know not what to say. Yeah, and even I know when you do ever come back to any of the cities after this part, people are still like you're a fugitive or whatever, but I still believe you. So, now that father would labor, now that father would labor to believe. But enough talk. You must go, Master Alphino. Your airship awaits. Up, up. There's no rest for the righteous. And on to Brochifont. He'll keep us safe. We should make for Camp Dragonhead and speak with Lord Orchiffon. Mayhap he will know what to do. Heavensward, man. Exciting. Master Alphino told me your tale, Avenza. Well, that was quick. He's not even here. It warms my heart that you should turn to me before all others, and I shall endeavor to deserve your trust. Alas, the situation here has grown more complicated in your absence. 'Twould be best if I explained in full. Before the dawn. In times of trouble, there are few things more precious than unconditional support.
There has been word from the capital. Ishgard has weathered another assault, and 'tis said several wyverns broke through into the city proper. The temple knights succeeded in slaying the beasts, but the intrusion prompted orders to further strengthen the guard and to place the city under a perpetual state of alert. How keenly we feel the loss of our wards at the gates of judgment. Yet we must not bemoan our misfortune. Sir Emmerich is safely returned from Ul'dah, and once more leads the defense of Ishgard. As for the matter of your asylum, I am afraid no progress will be made until the threat to our nation is diminished. But do not despair. You are not without allies. You are more than welcome to shelter here for as long as you wish. Pray, think of it as a new headquarters of sorts. The Falling Snows, or some such.
Such a great line.
All frivolity aside, any who come here in search of you will receive no aid from House Fortom. For once, the Ishgardian reputation for inhospitality shall work in our favor. Agents of Ul'dah will find their every inquiry dismissed, and their every request for entry rebuffed, until such time as their masters have acknowledged your innocence. You once fought to preserve the honor of my dear friend. 'Tis a blessing that I may now repay that debt in kind. But let us dwell no more on this. Pray, join the rest of your companions. 'Tis bitterly cold this day. I suspect there are those who might welcome the warmth your presence brings.
Was Alphino sitting there all along? Who managed to escape? And what of those who did not? Greetings, madam. Shall I show you inside? Upon proceeding to the intercessory, several cutscenes will play in sequence. It is recommended that you set aside sufficient time to view these scenes in their entirety. All right, let's do this. Alphino, Lavenza, is it really you? So yeah, we didn't see Tataru again after, we last saw her in Casa del Sol. Which also means she never got to see Minfilia again. Oh, uh, I'm so happy that you are. I tried contacting Minfilia and the others, but no one would respond. I wonder how she knew to come to Kurthis. And then Crystal Braves, our own people, turned on us in the marketplace. Flamen told me to run, and so I did. I ran and ran until my lungs burned and my feet ached, but I lost my way, and then. Oh, fortunately, I had observed some of the Braves behaving suspiciously beforehand. And there she is without the mask. Hmm? Ah, yes, my mask. It was lost in the struggle. Pretty, isn't she? Anyway, after Yugiri found me, we traveled to Vesper Bay and met up with Urian J. When we told him what had happened, he used his magics to weave a glamour around the waking sands. From the outside, our old headquarters now looks like an abandoned storehouse. The transformation didn't take long either. Apparently, Urian J started making preparations after the Imperial attack, just in case the Empire ever chose to pay us another visit. Good thinking, huh? Sorry, where was I? Oh, yes. So we waited there at the Waking Sands, hoping others would come, but no one else did. My people are searching for the other scions, even as we speak, but we have met with no success as yet. I had hoped that you might be able to suggest further places to look. But you should know the Rising Stones did not share the Waking Sands' good fortune. Only Crystal Braves await you there. Be that as it may, we yet have cause to hope, do we not? If the two of you escaped, it is not impossible that the others could have done so as well. You may have you may have been forsaken by men and women. Uh, you may have been forsaken by men and women believed true, but rest assured that the people of Doma yet stand with you. We welcome this opportunity to repay our debts and shall continue our efforts to locate the others and see the scions restored to their rightful place of honor.
"'Tis all my doing."
Man, this switching back and forth between, like, in kind of quick succession between voiced and unvoiced is a little something. Don't have words right now.
I believed myself the only one who truly understood Eorzea's woes. And look what that arrogance has wrought.
Yeah.
I gave commands, influenced governments with my certainty. I treated the Crystal Braves and even the Scions themselves as pawns in my great scheme to save the realm. But in my headlong rush into imagined glory, I paid no heed to the ground upon which I trod. The salvation of Eorzea. What was it that I hoped to achieve? Did I believe that I could rid the realm of every danger and difficulty? That I could defeat the Empire and the Ascians, and find homes for every refugee? Oh, yes. I was so very clever. Become a guardian of Eorzea, I implored, and sat back to watch my perfect army cleanse the land of chaos. 'Twas all but a means to feed my own vanity. Only when all is lost do I finally realize the truth.
It still surprises me that so many adults played along.
Alphino.
And the amount of influence he had still kind of
So,
puzzles me.
Master Alphino, are you content to remain a broken blade? Is there no flame hot enough to reforge you? What of the fine companions who yet stand at your side? I dare say the fires of their determination will soon have you slicing the air again with your customary wit.
I hardly deserve such friendship. And besides, where are we to go?
Alphino, if I may? Should this place not serve our purpose, then we shall go to Ishgard. Minfilia told me many times, as long as we stand fast against despair, the beacon of hope will never be lost to sight. Be it in the snow or in the clouds, we few will see that the dawn's light shines again.
You are right, Tataru. Thank you. And thank you for your kind words, Lord Orchefon. 'Tis true that Eorzea yet has her guardians. The Scions have achieved much, and 'twould be remiss of me to discard it all in a fit of self-pity. Let us then resume our journey, together, one step at a time.
Credits. Yep. It was interesting how Tataru had mentioned, like, whether in snow or in the clouds, which I think is like a hint at the first two zones you can go to, maybe. And then Orchefont just, he's that dude that's just always like knows the right thing to say to kind of, put the pep back into your step or whatever. He's got the little sayings. Yeah, as I was saying before, like, it still surprises me how, like, for all of Alphino's self-deprecation or like, throwing all that weight on himself, for all the wrongs he did, like, again, it still surprises me that he's like a teenager and all these other people like went along with it. Like, I mean, if you're going to do that, I mean, you'd have to expect that it's just going to go, that BJ Oki dude, he killed it. Because Telegi's just, again, as I said, like, the voice acting in ARR, I think its biggest like detractor for me was the fact that it's not the voices I've grown used to. But even beyond that, there were definitely like lines throughout it that came across very kind of wooden and just yeah, just not great. But Telegi was just added to it, was just made him so much more unlikable. But I think I was saying before, just Alphino and like the fact that everybody just followed him. It's like, oh yeah, you're trying to like start up like a new, basically like military organization. Like, sure, we'll follow your lead. To me, I kind of find that one a bit hard to believe. Because there's no reason, other than just grand ideas to follow him. I don't know. That's just kind of a weird one. I mean, it's a great ending. Obviously, I think a huge upswing in kind of like grabbing the player's attention and saying like, "Hey, this story's about to get like really good." But as I've said throughout this playthrough, I never felt like the story was bad. I never felt it be a slog. And I know that was a definite criticism before the pruning they did, but it's even still a criticism now. And I just don't really feel it. I can understand it a bit more coming from people that are new to the game, and like ARR is all they've done, because I think there's definitely quests, storylines, dialogue that hold more weight with like retrospection or whatever, being familiar with Shadowbringers, and even just the later expansions, but particularly with Shadowbringers, where like scenes that seem to almost not have a purpose because maybe it's like Ascians just prattling on, and without context you're just like, okay, they're just speaking in tongues or whatever, just talking crazy talk. But now like I completely understand everything that they're saying because I know the context to it. And there have been areas where I was like, do they need to keep this? Could they make this a side quest or whatever? But I think just because it was quests revolving around, the main scions like we see here, that it couldn't, I think, take place outside of the MSQ, because I don't think there are any side quests that include like any of the scions. And I think it's because obviously, Moonbrita wasn't with us for long, but imagine if you had a side quest with her, but like you decided to do it later. It doesn't work. And so that's why I think, even though it's like, because like Tataru's, that last quest you do before she goes off or whatever on her own, like, obviously it wouldn't really make sense timeline wise and stuff if they made it a side quest. And so I think if you're going to include it at all, it needed to be included when it was included. And it, I think, is character building. So, and there were other points throughout the MSQ with various other characters that I think were along the same vein, where it was kind of like, this isn't really needed, but at the same time, I think character development for the Scions was sorely needed and still lacking. Because it still surprises me, for as much time as we spent with all the other Scions, Moonbrita, who was only with us for a small number of quests, I think got more character development. Because so many of the characters, I think Thancred is one of the word I'm thinking of is glowing ones, but I think of that more in like or like shine, or just in most notable, not in like glowing in great. is that he was very, I don't know if you'd say it one-dimensional, two-dimensional, or whatever, but he wasn't. He's just like, oh, he's the, you know, the womanizing kind of rogue or whatever, but that's all he was as a character. Y'shtola was, I don't know, she was still very mysterious in this. I don't think they really gave her that much characterization. I mean, even going forward, she still kind of plays the mysterious, wise one, the scholarly type of one, but the more bearable scholarly, unlike Urianger. I think Tataru, they do a little bit. There was a little bit of character growth because they actually spent a little bit of time. Now, granted, you may have, I think, gotten more of that through just talking with her outside of quest text and just, you know, the flavor text or whatever, if you just talk to her off to the side or whatever. But in just her trying to, like, grow as a character and find a role for herself outside of just a receptionist. Ida and Papalimo, again, were just, they, I think, even, like, Papalimo almost had very little character and was just more or less attached to Ida. And Ida was just, she was another one that, like, had character, but it was very caricature-esque in the same way that Thancred was. Where, as I was saying earlier, they just made her out to be the airhead that just likes to punch stuff, which is so different than she is as Lise. And like, I know there's talk of kind of like, oh, well, she was just putting on a persona so people wouldn't figure out who she really was or something. That's one of those I can kind of believe was retconned. I didn't find her to be an unlikable character, but she was very much kind of a one-dimensional, two-dimensional, I don't really know, you know, certainly not a three-dimensional character. I mean, she definitely added some levity that I think was needed, which is interesting because she's not that type of character later. Like, who now adds levity, or at least levity in that regard? Urianger was not as bad as I remembered him to be. Because I remember the first time through, just every time Urianger talked, I was just like, oh God. Where to me, it wasn't quite as bad. A part of it might just been just me having to kind of grin and bear it, you know, to read through his dialogue. I mean, it still got to me. Just because he like almost speaks in poetry, which I've never been the biggest fan of poetry. Just because, like, I'm the type that, like, I read poetry and I'm just like, duh, what? You know, like, my brain just doesn't naturally, I think, translate poetry very well. And so his speak is just, I mean, even this time through, it was just kind of like I read it and I was like, okay, moving on. You know, it wasn't like I necessarily got exactly like what he was saying. I was just kind of like read it and it's like, okay, move on. But yeah, like, anyway, I think that certainly knowing going forward everything that happens with the characters, particularly, I mean, Shadowbringers really does some great character development on the Scions, that you see them here and they just feel like an empty shell of who they become. And again, you juxtapose them with Moonbrita, who such a short amount of time, but you got so much character and life from her. Yeah, it I don't know, it would be nice if they went back and, you know, redid some of the dialogue, but that's so much work that I don't know. I don't know how you handle that. I don't know, because again, there's still criticisms of A Realm Reborn. And so it's like, I mean, eventually at some point they may actually want to take the time to not just prune quests, but redo some of the dialogue or something. I don't know, something to it. But then again, I also hear from, I hear both sides from new people about how, like, oh, you know, it's such a slog or whatever. But then I hear other people that are like, I didn't notice it. Like, it was great. I enjoyed it. And if this is like the worst part of it, I really look forward to Heavensward and on. So I kind of wish people would just stop saying anything about A Realm Reborn and just let people decide on their own. I don't know. Again, to me, it just, I really enjoyed all of it. Again, it's coming from somebody that has more context to everything that's going on and understands that a lot of this is foundational. But I also don't remember having an issue with it the first time through. And that's before the pruning, because obviously that was done, you know, at launch. I would definitely say that there's some things that could still be done. I think Castrum, Meridianum, and Praetorium, they either need to take the trust system treatment to it and just give you some generic adventures, you know, that function in the way trusts do. Or, I mean, like, I went through it unsynced. There was nothing about it that running it by myself, like, you know, took me out of it or like ruined the immersion. Because I don't think, other than from what I recall of running it in main scenario roulette, I don't know if you ever even see your party members in Castrum Meridianum outside of maybe the very entrance, as they tend to do in those large group, you know, alliance raids and stuff, where you see them follow behind you. Like, other than that, I don't know if you ever see them in any of the cutscenes. And then Praetorium, you see them at the very beginning. And maybe they're around you for some of the other cutscenes, like going onto the elevator and stuff like that. But again, it's not like they play a role other than just standing in the background. So I think would probably be even easier than the trust method is just to make it a solo instance and just nerf, you know, the enemies that are in there. And maybe, you know, not only like nerf their health and damage, but maybe like take out a few here and there, like reduce the size of the packs in there. And then obviously just make the boss encounters, you know, tuned to a solo encounter, which I think would add to it all the better, because I think it's, from what I hear, it's still kind of frustrating to go through it. Even now, like, even though, like, okay, yeah, you get to watch the whole cutscenes all the way through, assuming there's still not people skipping the cutscene and moving all the way through. doing it on your own, like you're not going to get caught in the, oh, I didn't grab the Magitech armor key type of thing. Although even that, maybe there's still not a good enough indicator. I don't know. Like obviously, since I know to do that, it's not like I was looking for indicators. But you can just go through all that so much more casually, not have to worry about other people. Plus, if they did it solo, hopefully they would then take out the auto advance of the dialogue. Because while I think I could read through it faster without reading it aloud, it still, I think, just went by really fast. Admittedly, I'm a slow reader, but even then, I'm a slow reader. There has to be other people that read slow like me. So it would be nice to be able to play through it at your own pace and just be able to click through the dialogue. I think it would make that experience so much better, because I think it's still considered a low point for people coming through it now. So yeah, just something to either add it trust system or just make it a solo instance would make that better. I think that's still something that needs to be done. I had some issues with the pacing, but I wonder if it was more to do with my own eagerness to get to the next primal or get to the next dungeon. You know, like I specifically, I know with Snowcloak, that was one I was looking forward to. So every time I thought it was going to be like, okay, go to Snowcloak now, it was, okay, now go track down a heretic, or, you know, find out what happened to, you know, these temple knights or whatever. And it was like, ugh, I want to get to Snowcloak. It wasn't like I disliked the quest I was on. It just, I was looking forward to something that I knew was coming up, where if I didn't know those things were coming up, you know, I would assume I wouldn't have those feelings. Yeah, I don't know, between my own thoughts of everything going through it now this second time, and just the mixed reactions I've seen from newer players going through this stuff, and even some impressions from, you know, more veteran players, it's tough to say. I think what's there is good. I just think either it's for you or it's not. And I don't think there's anything that the devs can do that's really going to they can do slight tweaks to maybe grab a few more people that think it's not for them, but by and large, I think no matter what they do, like, it's still not going to be for some people. More cutscene? Ooh, yes. Yeah, this is one I want to talk about too.
All has been arranged as you desired, my lord.
I'm like waiting. I was waiting for a moment to speak, but I was like, are they going to say something? But yeah, because I know Lola Rito had something to do with it, and I know he pops up later when they tell you that Nanamo is not dead and all that stuff. And knowing that the handmaiden was Raubon, that the handmaiden was under the employ of Lola Rito. Okay, now what does he have to say? Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to do the Lola Rito bit before I continue this. Knowing that the handmaiden was under the employ of Lola Rito, and I think Lola Rito was behind the poisoning insofar as putting her asleep and not killing her. Presumably the handmaiden like knew that's what was going on. I still don't know exactly Lolorito's involvement in what he was doing. I think it was all like a self I'm blinking, I'm totally brain farting on that, but you know, it was all his own selfish plan, I think, to get Teleji out of the way. But I think even he didn't know that Raoban was going to kill Teleji. We'll find that out later, but like a lot of times when I've watched that the reactions to these cutscenes, like I haven't really paid attention to what's going on in the cutscene and more just paid attention to the reaction. And I always just kind of assumed that the handmaiden was like bad and in on it, but she was in on it, but I don't know that she was necessarily bad. I think she knew what was going on as far as that Nanamo wasn't dead. I don't know. But anyway, Nabrialis is no more. The ardor was not his to invoke. His demise was of his own making. Nevertheless, it concerns me. They have extinguished that which should rightly be eternal. Nevertheless, it concerns me. They have... Oh, extinguished that which should rightly be eternal. Okay, because we killed him. Mayhap he was not wholly mistaken. Greater haste may be warranted. But they still kind of... Well, they don't take a back line because they're still... I know they're getting involved in the Heavensward storyline. I don't remember what part they play in Stormblood. But it kind of feels like they play a bit of a back seat in the next two expansions. We are of one mind. The Northern Lands, then? The earth is fertile and the seeds well sown. By my will, they shall reap salvation unlike any the world has known. Yeah, I guess, I mean, he is definitely involved later. By his will. By his will. Yeah, Urianger. I remember he gets involved with them, but I don't remember the details behind it. I have answered thy summons, emissary. Speak, and make thine intent known. How did he just summon him? And he just, like, went along? Like, why? I would speak of fate, Archon. Yours, mine, the fate of this very star. Yeah, I don't remember like almost anything of Urianger's involvement with the Ascians. I mean, other than like he was basically like a double agent or whatever, but I look forward to Heavensward.
Thou thinkest sanctuary lieth beyond.
No, I know this is going to be a mess.
Delusion, despair, death. Thou shalt find naught else here.
Turns out pretty good in the end, though, I will say. To preserve the dawn's light, the heroes journeyed north. Their hearts filled with hope and eyes fixed heavensward, not heaven's sword. I still see people call it that. And we're done. Done with A Realm Reborn. Thank you all for watching this video. We have now completed A Realm Reborn. I really enjoyed it from start to finish. But to see a more comprehensive re-review of A Realm Reborn, I'll be releasing one of those soon. So check that out. And then after that, I'll be starting Heavensward, which I really look forward to. So if you enjoy this video and look forward to more, please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget that you can catch me live on Twitch, and the link to that is down below. Thank you again for watching, and have a good one.